Chapter 1. The Antiquarian of Secrets. The old bell tinkled softly when Elena Martinez pushed the heavy wooden door of Don Joaquin's Antiques. The sound seemed to awaken the dust that danced lazily in the sunbeams filtering through the dirty glass windows that October afternoon in Mexico City's historic center. The shop, wedged between a traditional cafe and a second-hand bookshop, emanated that particular aroma that only antique shops possess, a mixture of old wood, aged paper, and forgotten secrets. Elena paused a moment at the entrance, allowing her eyes to adjust to the dimness within. The shelves rose from floor to ceiling, laden with objects that seemed to whisper stories from other times. Pendulum clocks marked different hours, as if time itself had fragmented within those walls. Porcelain dolls observed her with their glassy eyes from the corners, and ancient gilded frames housed portraits of people whose names had been lost to time. "Is anyone here?" Elena asked, her voice resonating amongst the shadows of the establishment. The echo of her words seemed to awaken more dormant memories amongst the objects. A movement in the shadows caught her attention. An elderly man emerged from the darkness at the back of the shop, his footsteps silent on the worn wooden floor. His eyes, bright as freshly polished ancient coins, seemed to contain the same wisdom as the objects surrounding him. "Welcome, miss," he greeted with a surprisingly clear and melodious voice. "Don Joaquin, at your service." His wrinkled hands absently caressed a worn book with strange symbols on its cover. Elena ran her fingers over the dusty surfaces as she advanced through the narrow aisles. Each object seemed to want to tell its story: a brass gramophone with its large horn, a collection of daguerreotypes capturing faces from another century, a music box with a ballerina that seemed about to come to life. And then she saw it. In a secluded corner, partially hidden behind an oriental screen, rested an oval mirror with an engraved silver frame. The symbols decorating its contours seemed strangely familiar, as if she had seen them in some forgotten dream. As she approached, her reflection seemed to ripple like water, and for an instant, she thought she saw another face superimposed on hers, that of a woman in period dress who looked at her with eyes identical to her own. "Ah, I see the mirror has found you," Don Joaquin murmured behind her, startling her. Elena hadn't heard him approach. It belonged to the Velasco family. They say it holds more than mere reflections. Elena couldn't tear her gaze from the mirror. There was something about it that pulled at her, as if an invisible current drew her towards its silvered surface. "How much is it?" she asked, though part of her already knew the price would be irrelevant. "For you, Miss Martinez, it has no price." The mention of her surname startled her, breaking the mirror's spell. She turned abruptly towards the old man. "How do you know my—" "Coincidences are rarely coincidental," Don Joaquin interrupted, extending the mirror towards her with his gnarled hands. "Take it. It was time it returned to your family." Elena took the mirror with trembling hands. It was lighter than it appeared, and upon touching it, she felt a slight tingling in her fingertips. Don Joaquin carefully wrapped it in brown paper, tying it with string that seemed as old as the shop itself. As Elena left the shop, the bell's tinkle sounding like a farewell, she didn't notice Don Joaquin's enigmatic smile, nor the book he held, a diary with the surname Martinez embossed on the spine in worn golden letters. That night, in her small apartment in the historic center, Elena placed the mirror on her Art Deco dressing table, inherited from her grandmother. The moonlight filtering through the window made the symbols on the frame seem to come alive, dancing on the engraved silver. And when she looked into it, the face that looked back wasn't hers, but that of a woman who had disappeared in 1920, whose photograph she had seen 1,000 times in her grandmother's family album. Her great-grandmother Carmen, the woman who vanished without a trace during the Mexican Revolution, taking with her secrets that now, after almost a century, seemed ready to be revealed. Chapter 2. Faces from the Past. Dawn's light filtered through the thin curtains, casting elongated shadows across the wooden floor of Elena's flat. She had spent the night awake, seated before the mirror, her heart racing and her mind full of unanswered questions. Her great-grandmother Carmen's eyes, so similar to her own, continued to gaze at her from the other side of time, challenging her to unravel the mystery that connected them. Elena rose slowly, feeling the weight of sleeplessness on her shoulders. She prepared a strong coffee, hoping the warmth and caffeine would clear the fog from her mind. As she drank, Her thoughts returned time and again to the mirror and the antique shop. How could an object contain such power? And why did she feel such a deep connection to it? The sound of her phone vibrating on the table pulled her from her thoughts. It was Sophia, her best friend since childhood, always with a contagious energy that contrasted with Elena's introspective nature. "Elena, are you awake? I'm coming over." Sophia's voice rang cheerfully through the speaker. "Yes, of course. I'll wait for you," Elena replied, trying to sound more animated than she felt. Minutes later, Sophia arrived like a whirlwind, her curly hair bouncing with each step. "Hello. How are you? You look a bit, how should I put it? As if you've seen a ghost." Elena smiled weakly. "Something like that. I have to show you something." She led Sophia to the mirror, now partially covered by a shawl. Sophia raised an eyebrow, curious. "What's this?" "An antique mirror I found yesterday. Or rather, that found me," Elena explained, carefully removing the shawl. Sophia leaned forward, observing her reflection. "Looks normal. What's special about it?" "Last night, I saw my great-grandmother in it. Not my reflection, but hers. And it wasn't just a sleep-deprived hallucination. It was real." Sophia looked at her with a mixture of concern and fascination. "Are you sure it wasn't a strange dream? I know, it sounds mad. But there's more." Elena pulled an old box from under her bed, opening it to reveal her great-grandmother Carmen's diary. "My grandmother gave me this years ago, but I could never open it. The clasp was sealed somehow." Sophia observed the diary with interest. "And now?" "Last night, after seeing the reflection, the clasp opened by itself," said Elena, showing the now accessible diary. "And I found this." She turned the pages until she reached a yellowed photograph showing 5 people in front of an old building. Society of Memory Guardians, Mexico City, 1918. "Memory Guardians? What does that mean?" asked Sophia, clearly intrigued. "That's what I want to find out. I think my great-grandmother was involved in something big, something that made her disappear." Sophia frowned, thinking. "And you believe this mirror is connected to that?" "More than that. I think the mirror is some sort of portal or tool they used. And now, somehow, it's connected to me." Before they could discuss further, a firm knock on the flat door interrupted them. They looked at each other, surprise and nervousness reflected in their faces. "Are you expecting anyone else?" Sophia asked quietly. Elena shook her head, approaching the door cautiously. "Who is it?" "Miss Martinez," replied a male voice, firm but polite. "We are the Order of the Guardians. We need to speak with you." Elena felt a shiver run down her spine. How did they know her name? And what did they want from her? "Order of the Guardians?" Sophia murmured, repeating the words from the diary. "Is it them?" Elena took a deep breath, her mind racing. "I'm going to open it," she whispered to Sophia, who nodded, preparing for anything. With a slow turn of the handle, Elena opened the door, revealing 3 figures: a middle-aged man in an impeccable grey suit, an elderly woman with a silver cane, and a young woman who could be her contemporary, dressed entirely in black. "My name is Gabriel Velasco," said the man, with a reassuring smile. "And I believe you've already met my great-uncle, Don Joaquin." The elderly woman stepped forward, leaning on her cane. "I am Dona Mercedes, the last of the original Guardians. And we need your help, Elena." Elena felt the world around her change, as if time itself had decided to pause for a moment. The young woman in black remained silent, her eyes fixed on the mirror behind Elena. "Your great-grandmother Carmen," continued Dona Mercedes, "was our most talented guardian. She discovered that mirrors not only reflected memories but could change them." Elena and Sophia exchanged glances, the reality of the situation beginning to sink in. "Change the past?" Sophia asked, incredulous. "Not exactly," replied Gabriel. "But they can correct altered memories. You see, there are people dedicated to modifying collective memories, to rewriting history. We call them the erasers." Elena felt a chill. "And what does my great-grandmother have to do with all this?" "Carmen discovered that the erasers had infiltrated the government during the revolution," explained Dona Mercedes. "They were systematically eliminating memories of massacres, of secret pacts, of uncomfortable truths. Your great-grandmother tried to stop them, but the woman in black spoke for the first time. They made her disappear. Like my mother. Like all who have tried to expose them. Suddenly, the mirror began to glow intensely from its hiding place. At the same time, sirens began to sound in the street. "They've found us," whispered Gabriel. "The erasers are here." "Elena," said Dona Mercedes urgently, "that mirror contains the last unaltered memories of events that could change Mexico's history. Your great-grandmother protected it with her life. Now you must decide, will you come with us and learn to be a guardian, or will you let the erasers continue manipulating our past?" The sirens were getting closer. Heavy footsteps echoed on the staircase. Elena looked at Sophia, who nodded decisively. She took the mirror and the diary. "What do I need to do?" "First," said the woman in black, pulling out a small mirror from her jacket, "we need to disappear." The mirrors began to resonate with each other, creating a hum that made the windows vibrate. The flat door began to shake under the blows of those trying to enter. With a final glance at her old world, Elena prepared for the unknown, knowing her life would never be the same again. Chapter 3: The Guardians of Time. The world became a whirlwind of lights and shadows when Elena closed her eyes and clung to the mirror held by the woman in black. She felt as if she were falling through a tunnel of mirrors, each surface reflecting a different moment in history. The echoes of voices and laughter, cries and whispers, resonated around her, enveloping her in a cloak of memories that weren't her own. When her feet touched solid ground again, Elena opened her eyes cautiously. She found herself in a vast circular library, illuminated by Art Deco lamps that cast a warm golden glow over walls covered with ancient books. The shelves rose several floors, filled with leather-bound volumes and small mirrors labeled with dates and events. "Welcome to the Archive of Memories," announced Gabriel, as Elena and Sophia regained their balance. "The last safe refuge of the Guardians." Elena turned around, marveling at the magnitude and mystery of the place. "Where exactly are we?" "Beneath Mexico City," answered Luna, the woman in black, as she walked towards the center of the room. "This library has been here since the time of the Aztecs. It's the heart of our knowledge and our history." Dona Mercedes approached limping, leaning on her cane. "Every book, every mirror, contains a pure memory of historical moments. But yours, Elena, is special. It's a matrix mirror, capable of connecting with all others and revealing hidden truths." Elena looked at the mirror in her hands, feeling its weight not just physically, but symbolically. "Why me? Why now?" "Because the erasers are about to complete their greatest project," explained Luna, her eyes shining intensely. "They're preparing an event they've called the Great Cleansing. They plan to use modern technology combined with ancient rituals to perform a massive erasure of collective memories." Sophia, who had been unusually quiet, approached one of the mirrors on the wall. "Are these all the moments they're trying to erase?" "Not just moments," Gabriel corrected. "People, places, entire events. Imagine waking up one day and no one remembers the Mexican Revolution, or has a completely different version of it." Elena felt her heart stop. "And what can I do to stop them?" "Your great-grandmother Carmen left clues in her diary," said Dona Mercedes, pointing to the book Sophia still held. "She knew this day would come. She wrote about a ritual that can stop the erasers, but it requires a guardian of pure blood." "A ritual?" asked Elena, her mind full of questions. "What kind of ritual?" "One that requires you to connect with the matrix mirror and awaken the dormant memories in this library," explained Luna. "It's a dangerous process, but it's our only hope." Suddenly, Elena's mirror began to vibrate. On its surface, images began to form: her great-grandmother Carmen in an old office, writing frantically in her diary. "They're close." Carmen's voice resonated clearly as if she were in the room. "I've discovered their plan. The erasers don't just want to change the past, they want to control it. Each erased memory gives them more power. The ritual requires sacrifices. Living memories." The image distorted and changed, now showing the present: men in dark suits entering Elena's flat, collecting objects, modifying photographs. "They're erasing your existence," whispered Luna. "In a few hours, no one outside this room will remember that Elena Martinez ever existed." Not if we can help it, declared Elena, with a determination she didn't know she had. How do I learn to use the mirror? Dona Mercedes smiled, but her expression turned grave almost immediately. Training normally takes years, but we don't have that time. The erasers will perform their ritual on the next new moon, in 3 days. Then we'll have to do it in 3 days, affirmed Elena, looking at each person present. My great-grandmother didn't give her life for them to win. A tremor shook the library, making the mirrors tinkle. The guardians exchanged worried looks. They've found us, announced Gabriel, running towards one of the bookshelves. Elena, your first lesson begins now. The question is, are you ready to see the truth behind all the lies? Elena nodded, her fear transforming into iron resolve. She knew the path ahead would be dangerous and that the answers she sought could change everything she knew. But she also knew she wasn't alone. With Sophia's support and the Guardians, she was ready to face any challenge. As the library vibrated with the energy of ancient memories awakening, Elena prepared to delve into a world where past and present intertwined in a delicate balance, and where each decision could mean the difference between truth and oblivion. Chapter 4: The Art of Disappearing. The underground library vibrated with ancient energy as Elena and the others ran through endless corridors between shelves that seemed to touch the sky. The echo of their footsteps mingled with the tinkling of mirrors surrounding them, creating an unsettling symphony that resonated off the stone walls. Gabriel and Luna swiftly moved specific shelves, revealing an intricate system of secret passages hidden behind the ancient volumes. The dust of centuries rose in their wake, dancing in the air like tiny stars under the light of strange phosphorescent stones embedded in the walls of the tunnel they now entered. This is the corridor of memories, explained Dona Mercedes as they advanced, her cane producing a metallic echo against the stone floor. Each glowing stone you see in the walls contains the memory of a fallen guardian. Their final thoughts, their most important discoveries, their sacrifices. Elena watched in wonder as the stones seemed to pulse with their own light as they passed, as if recognizing their presence. Sophia, beside her, extended a hand to touch one of the brightest stones. Wait, shouted Luna, but it was too late. The moment Sophia's fingers brushed the crystalline surface, an image projected into the air before them, a young guardian confronting a group of erasers, desperately protecting a mirror while his memories were being torn from his mind. The scene was so vivid that Elena could feel the guardian's terror and determination as if they were her own. Each stone is a testimony, murmured Gabriel, as the image slowly faded. A reminder of what's at stake. They continued their path until reaching an impressive circular chamber. 7 ancient mirrors were arranged in a star pattern around a black obsidian pedestal that rose in the center of the room. The vaulted ceiling was covered with symbols that seemed to change and move under the fluctuating light. Elena, Luna approached urgently, her eyes shining with an almost supernatural intensity. Place your mirror in the center. It's time for you to see why the erasers fear your family so much. With trembling hands, Elena positioned the matrix mirror on the obsidian pedestal. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The 7 mirrors in the chamber came to life simultaneously, each projecting a different scene from the past that intertwined with the others in the air above their heads. Mexico City, 1918, narrated Dona Mercedes, her voice taking on a reverential tone. Your great-grandmother Carmen discovered that the erasers weren't simple memory manipulators. They are something older, darker. In the mirrors, Elena watched Carmen, dressed in period clothing, infiltrating a secret ceremony. Men and women wearing obsidian masks performed a macabre ritual, extracting memories from people tied to ornate chairs. With each extracted memory, their bodies seemed to rejuvenate, while their victims withered like flowers without water. They feed on memories, explained Luna, her voice barely a whisper. Each erased memory gives them more life, more power. They've been doing it for centuries, keeping themselves young and powerful at the expense of others' stories and experiences. But why my family? Asked Elena, as the images continued flowing like an old film before her eyes. Why are we so important to them? Gabriel approached the matrix mirror, pointing to a particular mark on its frame that Elena hadn't noticed before. The Martinez family descends from an ancient line of Aztec guardians. Tezcatlipoca, the god of the smoking mirror, granted them the gift of seeing and protecting true memories. Your blood, Elena, is the key that can open or close the doors of collective memory. In another mirror, Carmen wrote frantically in her diary, the pages illuminated by candlelight. The great cleansing ritual requires a special sacrifice. They need the blood of a true guardian, born under the new moon. With it, they can erase not just individual memories, but the collective memory of an entire nation. Elena felt her heart stop. I was born during a new moon. That's why they've been searching for you, confirmed Dona Mercedes, placing a wrinkled hand on Elena's shoulder. You're the last of the pure bloodline of guardians. Your power can not only protect memories but also restore them. Suddenly, the mirrors began to vibrate violently. On their surfaces appeared images of the present, the erasers advancing through the underground tunnels, following their trail like hungry bloodhounds. No more time for explanations, declared Luna, pulling a small mirror from her pocket. Elena, you must learn to use your gift now. Close your eyes and connect with the mirror. Feel the memories it contains. Elena obeyed, placing her hands on the matrix mirror. Instantly, a wave of images and sensations flooded her like a tsunami. She saw her great-grandmother fighting against the erasers, hiding secrets in codes within seemingly insignificant memories, creating a protection network that crossed time itself. I'm seeing it, exclaimed Elena, her voice mixing with the growing hum of the mirrors. I see how to do it. But before she could complete the sentence, an explosion shook the chamber, causing dust and small stone fragments to fall from the ceiling. Through the dust and debris, figures with obsidian masks emerged from the shadows like specters from a nightmare. The last pureblood guardian, a voice resonated among the masks, ancient and powerful as time itself. At last we've found you, Elena Martinez. The erasers had arrived, and with them, the moment of Elena's true test. The time for explanations was over. It was time to act. Chapter 5: Reflections of Truth. The air in the circular chamber became dense and electric as the erasers advanced with measured steps, their obsidian masks distortedly reflecting the light from the mirrors. Elena could feel the ancestral power emanating from them, a dark and hungry force that seemed to absorb the very light from the environment. Miss Martinez, spoke the leader of the erasers, his voice resonating with centuries of stolen memories. You have no idea how long we've waited for this moment. His words seemed to float in the air like threads of black silk, tempting and deadly. Gabriel and Luna instinctively moved to protect Elena, while Dona Mercedes gripped her cane with a firmness that belied her apparent fragility. Sophia remained close to the pedestal, her hands clutching Carmen's diary as if it were a shield. You don't have to do this, continued the leader, slowly removing his mask to reveal an unsettlingly beautiful and young face, but with eyes that contained millennia of darkness. We can reach an agreement. After all, isn't it better to forget certain pains? Wouldn't the world be a better place without the weight of past tragedies? Elena felt the temptation in his words, the seductive whisper of a promise of peace through forgetting. But then the matrix mirror pulsed under her hands, showing her the truth behind those promises. She saw entire civilizations erased from history, families destroyed by memory voids, the cultural wealth of generations vanishing like smoke in the wind. Memories make us who we are, declared Elena, her voice gaining strength with each word. Even the painful ones. Especially the painful ones. The leader of the erasers smiled, an expression that didn't reach his ancient eyes. Ah, you speak just like your great-grandmother Carmen. She too believed in the importance of preserving every memory, every pain. Do you know what that belief cost her? With a gesture of his hand, one of the chamber's mirrors came to life, showing Carmen's final moments. They watched her confronting the erasers in this very chamber, decades ago, desperately protecting the matrix mirror. Your great-grandmother had a choice, continued the leader. She could have joined us, become something more than a simple guardian of painful memories. She could have helped create a better world, a world without wars, without trauma, without the crushing weight of the past. A world without truth, interrupted Dona Mercedes, her voice sharp as steel. A world built on lies and emptiness. The leader of the erasers looked at her with something like pity. Truth is relative, my dear Mercedes. You know that well. After all, how many different versions of history have you seen in your years as a guardian? While they spoke, Elena noticed something in the diary Sophia was holding. The pages were glowing faintly, and symbols similar to those on the mirror's frame began to become visible in the margins. "The ritual," whispered Sophia, quietly enough that only Elena could hear. "There are hidden instructions in the diary." Elena maintained a neutral expression, aware that any sign of discovery would alert the erasers. With almost imperceptible movements, she began moving her hands over the matrix mirror, following the patterns appearing in the diary. "You're right about one thing," said Elena, buying time. "Memories can be painful. They can be a heavy burden." Her fingers continued tracing the symbols as she spoke. "But they are also our greatest strength." The matrix mirror began to vibrate under her hands, a low hum that gradually increased. The other mirrors in the chamber responded in tune, creating a resonance that made the very air tremble. "What are you doing?" asked the leader of the erasers, his serenity fracturing for the first time. "What my great-grandmother couldn't finish," replied Elena. "I'm awakening the memories. All of them." The symbols on the chamber walls began to glow with a golden light, and the phosphorescent stones of the memory corridor pulsed like nearby stars. Every mirror in the underground library resonated in perfect harmony, creating a symphony of memories that rose like an unstoppable wave. "Stop her," ordered the leader, but it was too late. Elena felt how the power flowed through her, not as an external force but as something that had always been there, dormant in her blood, waiting for this moment. The memories contained in every mirror, every stone, every book in the library began to awaken. The erasers retreated when images began to materialize in the air, thousands of moments from history, great and small, joyful and tragic, personal and collective, all intertwined in a brilliant network of truth and remembrance. "This is the true power of the mirrors," declared Elena, her voice mixing with the thousands of voices from the past. "They don't just reflect what was, but remind us who we are." The leader of the erasers lunged forward in one last desperate attempt, but Luna and Gabriel intercepted his attack. In the confusion that followed, Sophia found something else in the diary, a page sealed with red wax that broke under her trembling fingers. "Elena," Sophia shouted above the chaos. "There's something else. Your great-grandmother left a message. The power isn't in containing memories, but in releasing them in a way they can be understood. The matrix mirror is a conduit, not a prison." The words resonated in Elena's mind like a revelation. All this time, the Guardians had been protecting memories, keeping them safe, but isolated. And the erasers had been destroying them. Neither extreme was the answer. With this new understanding, Elena changed her focus. Instead of trying to contain the power flowing through her, she began directing it, not as a destructive flood but as a steady, controlled river. The memories began to flow differently, not just showing themselves but integrating, weaving a narrative that everyone could understand. The erasers stopped, some falling to their knees, others removing their masks to better see the spectacle unfolding before them. This is the true purpose of the Guardians, Elena realized. Not just to protect memories, but to help them be understood, so their weight can be shared and their wisdom utilized. The leader of the erasers, now unmasked, watched with a mixture of awe and terror as his power vanished. The memories he had stolen for centuries began to release themselves, returning to the collective consciousness from where they should never have been torn. But the power was still immense, almost too much for Elena to control. The matrix mirror began to crack under the pressure of so many memories being released simultaneously. "Elena," Sophia shouted. "If the mirror breaks, we'll lose everything." The decision Elena would make in the next moments would change not just her destiny, but the future of memory itself. Chapter 6: The Dance of Mirrors. Chaos in the circular chamber reached its peak as the power of released memories threatened to overflow Elena's control. The erasers, now stripped of their masks, writhed on the floor as memories they had stolen for centuries escaped from their bodies like strands of silver light, returning to the mirrors that had originally contained them. Gabriel and Luna moved with practiced precision among the mirrors, using small crystals to direct and channel the flow of memories, preventing the energy overload from destroying the ancient chamber. Their movements seemed like a choreographed dance, a ritual as old as the Guardian's order itself. "Elena, you must complete the connection," shouted Dona Mercedes while blocking the entrance with her cane, which now glowed with an intense blue light. Only you can activate the protection network your great-grandmother created. It's the only way to stabilize the released memories. Elena kept her hands on the matrix mirror, but fear began to cloud her concentration. She could feel every memory passing through her: joys, sorrows, triumphs, tragedies, loves and losses of countless lives. The weight of history threatened to overwhelm her. Sophia, who had remained by her side the whole time, held Carmen's diary as if it were a protective talisman. Her eyes frantically scanned the pages that glowed with their own inner light. "The pages," exclaimed Sophia, her voice mixing with the hum of resonating mirrors. "They're not just words, Elena. Look at the patterns. Your great-grandmother hid a code in the way she wrote." Under the fluctuating light of the battle unfolding around them, Elena could see what Sophia was pointing to. The words in the diary weren't simply written in straight lines, but formed intricate designs that perfectly matched the symbols engraved on her mirror's frame. The leader of the erasers, now barely a shadow of his former imposing presence, crawled towards Elena. His face, previously eternally young, now showed the weight of the centuries he had lived. "The ritual requires blood," he said hoarsely, his ancient eyes fixed on Elena. "But no one said it had to be yours, Elena. We can still reach an agreement. Why sacrifice yourself when you could join us? Imagine, eternal youth, power over reality itself." "Don't listen to him," interrupted Luna, dodging a desperate attack from one of the erasers who could still move. "That's how they convinced my father. That's why he betrayed the Guardians. He believed them when they said some memories deserved to be erased." The leader smiled, an expression that didn't reach his empty eyes. "Ah, little Luna. Your father understood a fundamental truth: some memories are too painful to keep. The wars, the genocides, the betrayals. Wouldn't the world be better without them? Don't people deserve the peace of forgetting?" Elena felt the temptation whispering in her mind like a poisonous snake. For a moment, the leader's words seemed to make sense. Wouldn't it be easier to just forget? To let the weight of history vanish like mist under the morning sun? But then the matrix mirror pulsed in her hands, showing her the complete truth. She saw entire civilizations erased from existence, not just their tragedies but also their triumphs, their art, their music, their very essence. She saw families separated by memory voids, forgotten loves, sacrifices erased as if they had never existed. She saw the erasers feeding on humanity's very essence, leaving behind empty shells with placid smiles and eyes without depth. "Memories make us who we are," declared Elena, her voice gaining strength with each word. "Even the painful ones. Especially the painful ones. They are the scars that teach us, the lessons that make us grow, the truths that keep us human." At that crucial moment, Sophia found something else in the diary. Among the glowing pages was a detailed drawing of the circular chamber, accompanied by a note written in Carmen's trembling hand: "The circle must be closed with freely given blood, not taken. Only then will memories find their balance." Elena then understood the true meaning of the ritual. It wasn't about power or control, but about will and sacrifice. She took the pin that held her hair, a family relic that had passed from Carmen to her grandmother and then to her. With a decisive movement, she pricked her finger and let a drop of blood fall onto the surface of the matrix mirror. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The 7 mirrors in the chamber burst into light, connecting with the matrix mirror through rays of pure energy that formed a perfect star. Throughout the network of underground tunnels, hundreds of hidden mirrors began to resonate in harmony, activating the protection that Carmen had designed decades ago. "No," roared the leader of the erasers, but his cry was lost in the symphony of released memories. The memories stored in each mirror began to flow like a river of light, not just showing the truth, but protecting it, weaving it into an indestructible network of shared knowledge. Elena saw and felt every memory her great-grandmother had saved, every truth she had protected, every moment she had considered too important to be forgotten. But something unexpected began to happen. The released energy was more intense than anyone had anticipated. The walls of the ancient chamber began to crack, and the remaining erasers retreated in panic towards the shadows. "Elena," shouted Dona Mercedes, her voice laden with urgency. "The power is too much. You must find a way to control it or it will destroy us all." Chapter 7: The Price of Truth. The mirror's energy transformed the circular chamber into a vortex of memories and blinding light. Elena, at the center of the chaos, felt each memory flowing through her like an unstoppable river. Forgotten wars, lost loves, buried betrayals, silenced triumphs, Mexico's unofficial history manifesting in an overwhelming torrent that threatened to consume her completely. The ancient chamber's walls creaked under the pressure of so much unleashed power, and stone fragments began falling from the vaulted ceiling. The symbols engraved on the walls glowed with an almost unbearable intensity, as if the room itself was struggling to contain the explosion of released memories. "Stop her," ordered the leader of the erasers, his voice barely audible above the roar of unleashed history. "If she releases all the memories at once, she'll destroy the veil that maintains order. The weight of so much knowledge will shatter people's mind." Luna made her way through the falling debris, dodging energy rays surging from the mirrors. "Your great-grandmother left specific instructions in the diary. There must be something more. A way to control the flow." Sophia, protecting the diary with her body while energy bursts lashed through the chamber, found a page that glowed more intensely than the others. The ink seemed to move by itself, forming new patterns as she read. "The power isn't in containing memories, but in releasing them in a way they can be understood. The matrix mirror is a conduit, not a prison. Memories must flow like water, with force but with purpose." Elena then understood the fundamental error that both Guardians and Erasers had made for centuries. The Guardians had been protecting memories, keeping them safe but isolated, while the Erasers had been destroying them. Neither extreme was the right answer. "Elena," shouted Gabriel, holding up an ancient mirror that reflected the chaos around them. "Your great-grandmother didn't want the memories to remain hidden forever. She wanted them to be shared when the right time came. This is that moment." With sudden clarity that cut through the chaos like a sunbeam through the storm, Elena knew what to do. Instead of struggling to contain the energy flowing through her, she began directing it. The memories started flowing differently, not as a destructive flood but as a controlled river that nourished instead of destroyed. "No," roared the leader of the Erasers, his face rapidly aging as he lost his control over the stolen memories. "You'll condemn us all. Some truths aren't meant to be known." "You're wrong," replied Elena, her voice resonating with the power of generations of Guardians. "I'm not condemning them to knowledge. I'm freeing them to remember." The mirrors pulsed in unison, creating a network of light that extended beyond the underground chamber. Through them, Elena could see the city above, where people began stopping in the streets, their eyes unfocused as long-suppressed memories gradually returned to collective consciousness. "People deserve to know their true history," declared Elena, while directing the flow of memories. "Not to become trapped in the past, but to learn from it. To grow. To heal." The Erasers began vanishing one by one, their obsidian masks falling to reveal ancient and tired faces. Without the stolen memories to maintain their artificial youth, the weight of centuries finally caught up with them. But the power was still almost unmanageable. The matrix mirror began cracking under the pressure of so many memories flowing through it. Fracture lines appeared on its surface like silver cobwebs. "Elena," shouted Sophia, her voice laden with terror. "If the mirror breaks, we'll lose everything. All the memories will scatter uncontrollably." Dona Mercedes approached limping, her cane glowing with an increasingly intense blue light. "There is a way, but it comes at a terrible price. Someone must become the new matrix mirror. A living guardian of memories. As your great-grandmother was," added Luna softly, her eyes shining with contained tears. "That's why she disappeared. They didn't kill her, she became part of the mirrors to protect the most important memories. She sacrificed herself to keep the truth alive." Elena looked at her friends, Sophia, who had been by her side from the beginning, Luna, who had lost so much in this battle, Gabriel, who had dedicated his life to protecting the truth, and Dona Mercedes, who had witnessed so much. She looked at the vanishing Erasers, victims of their own obsession with control. She looked at her family's legacy, the weight of generations of Guardians that had culminated in this moment. The decision weighed on her like fate itself, but in her heart, Elena knew there was no other choice. The memories needed more than a container, they needed a guardian who could understand them, guide them, share them in a way that could heal rather than hurt. "I accept the price," whispered Elena, as she extended her hands towards the cracked matrix mirror. "But I'll do it my way." The power of memories enveloped her like a storm of light and knowledge, and Elena Martinez began her final transformation, preparing to become something more than a mere guardian of memories. Chapter 8: Tomorrow's Reflection. Elena stood at the center of a storm of light and memories, every fragment of her being resonating with the power of generations of human stories. Memories flowed through her, a torrent of experiences and emotions that connected her to the lives of those who had come before and those who would come after. As the matrix mirror vanished, absorbed by the light emanating from Elena, the circular chamber began to transform. The stone walls, previously cracked and worn by time, smoothed and strengthened, as if the energy of memories was restoring not just the physical space, but the very fabric of history itself. Elena felt her consciousness expanding, encompassing not just the present, but also the past and future. She could see the network of memories extending throughout the city, connecting people with their forgotten stories, returning to them the knowledge of who they truly were. On the surface, Mexico City vibrated with new vitality. People in the streets stopped, their faces illuminated by the sudden understanding of truths that had been suppressed for so long. Memories returned to their rightful owners, not as a burden, but as a source of strength and wisdom. Elena, Sophia's voice reached her like a distant echo, though her friend was right beside her. "Are you all right? What's happening?" Elena opened her eyes, finding Sophia with tears in her eyes, her expression a mixture of fear and wonder. "I'm fine," replied Elena, her voice resonating with a calmness she hadn't felt before. "I understand everything now." Luna, Gabriel and Dona Mercedes watched with respect and admiration. They knew they were witnessing something unprecedented, a fundamental change in how memories would be protected and shared in the future. "Memories no longer need a solitary guardian," explained Elena, as the light around her began to soften, integrating into her being. "Each person who receives a fragment of memory will become part of the network, protecting and sharing history. We will all be guardians." The leader of the erasers, now a fragile old man, rose with difficulty, his eyes filled with a mixture of regret and relief. "We never understood the true purpose of memories," he admitted, his voice broken with emotion. "We thought we could control them, use them to create a better world. But we were wrong." Elena approached him, her presence emanating a comforting warmth. "Memories aren't meant to be controlled," she said softly. "They're meant to be shared, so we can learn and grow together." With a gesture of compassion, Elena touched the leader's shoulder, and the memories he had stolen for centuries began returning to their rightful owners. His body slowly vanished, leaving behind a sense of peace and redemption. As the light in the chamber diminished, Elena realized the transformation was complete. She was no longer just a guardian of memories, she had become the conduit through which stories of the past would flow into the future. "It's time to go," said Dona Mercedes, her voice full of pride and satisfaction. "The Guardian's work will continue, but in a new, more inclusive way." Elena nodded, knowing that her role as Guardian had changed, but her mission wasn't over. Together with Sophia, Luna, and Gabriel, she left the restored chamber, leaving behind the ancient underground refuge to face a world renewed by the power of memories. In the days and weeks that followed, the city experienced a renaissance of memory. The fragments of the matrix mirror found homes in museums, schools, public squares, and private homes. Each fragment shared its stories with those who were ready to listen, creating a living network of historical memory. Sophia became the official chronicler of the new order of memory guardians, documenting how people began to remember and share the lost stories of their families and communities. Luna established a school to teach new generations how to protect and nurture memories without imprisoning them. And Elena became something more than a guardian. As the last of the pure bloodline, she maintained a special connection with the network of memories, but was no longer their prisoner. She traveled the country, helping people reconcile with recovered truths, healing the wounds of forced forgetting. In the old antique shop, Don Joaquin smiled while dusting a small mirror on his counter. In its surface, for a moment, reflected the image of Carmen, nodding in approval towards the new world her great-granddaughter had created. The mirror of lost memories was no longer lost. Now it lived in the hearts and minds of all those who chose to remember, understand, and learn from their past. As the sun set over the city, bathing everything in a golden glow, Elena looked towards the horizon, knowing that the real work was just beginning. With each shared memory, with each story told, the world became a richer, wiser, and more human place.